was animistic, and our culture drummed and danced and fasted into altered states of consciousness together with the use of the drum.
With the use of the drum. And, you know, my journey in doing the drum was, I felt very honored, and it was a very sacred thing to me. I didn't know why. And so I bought a drum and I hung it on the wall, and I said, okay, the right teacher is going to come and give me permission to drum. And I waited and I waited and I waited. And a year later I said, well, you know, I'm not going to wait anymore. And so I started drumming. That was profound for me. And it represented my commitment to spirit. You know, I honored that by just, you know, waiting. I was able to drum from the very beginning. One of my cousins, I guess, Mary from Bethel, she actually talked to me about how she used the drum, because I didn't know. I didn't know these things. And I was very interested. And so to me, the drum, she taught me that the drum is the world, and we are the footsteps. We are dancing. The drumstick is us humans dancing on Mother Earth.
That's our cousin, Mary Chaparrat.
Yes, and so, and when we dance and sing, we are telling stories of our ancestors and stories of what we've done. And I would go around and I'd ask information about my grandmother and great-grandmother, and these old women would ask me, what village you from? And I don't have a village. And poor, you know, and yet I still felt Yupik inside, and I was seeking. You know, there's a reason for everything, and that's okay.
And so to drum and ask a question to communicate with a plant, how would you do that?
Well, I would start with the intention, what I wanted to do, and then I would go and start drumming. I would travel down to the lower world where I would be met by one of my guides, and I would ask my guide to help me with that question, and then my guide will take me on a journey.
And in this journey, what occurs? If you're asking about a plant, what would happen?
Well, I don't know. I haven't been on the journey.
Well, what I'm getting at is it's a visionary experience.
Well, it is. It's like your imagination takes over. It's like you're watching inside your head this amazing television show or movie, and you're the actor, and you don't know what's happening because you're the one walking. You know, you just walk forth, and then you ask, who are you? And they will answer you. And animals and plants and trees and birds and fish, they all talk in this realm.
And some people who journey here, some people see vision. It's a communication through these altered states of consciousness that allow you to communicate with the spirit of the plants and animals, and then there's a bit of interpretation that occurs,
right,
where there is a symbolic language that is used.
And the more you do it, I mean, we each have our own language that is spoken to us. You know, I think that Sometimes you're brought to the upper world, where there's, there human guides, and other people, or so it really depends on how you journey,
Everybody journeys differently and has teachers for this cultural experience called journeying. And it's embedded in all Alaska Native cultures, is a process and a practice of entering into altered states of consciousness with drum. And it's also a shared animistic culture from indigenous people around the world.
Correct. It comes to medicine people automatically. Medicine people in different cultures, they're born with that in their blood. They just are born that way. They naturally have plants talk to them from the time they're very young, or they have particular things that happen to them from the first thing that they remember in life. They're drawn to that particular way of being. And it used to be that you were allowed. You went and you did what you were drawn to do, not made to do anything.
And so in our family, your grandmother was born free as a sovereign indigenous woman, free on the land. And then she was given to missionaries to raise. And at that point, the installation of colonization, shame, guilt, loss of language, that occurred. And here you are, just 2 generations later, you have remembered when you remembered, and you've accessed your inborn gifts, your birthright of being a sensitive, empathic medicine person.
I think out of all tragedies, there's a gift. There's a gift. But in my family, on both my father's side and my mother's side, my ancestors were medicine people on both sides. I think in our DNA that helps. We're more apt to be drawn to that way of being. My interest was very, very young in playing with plants. I remember being a little kid and playing with plants and making teas, and I didn't know what I was doing, but that's what I was doing. I was practicing making medicine, and that was already in me to do. It's like at a certain point in our development, as we grow older and we're free to really choose what we want to be, we go that way. And I've been gifted that that's what I've always done. Very few times did I have to go and do something else. And when I did something else, it's because I wanted to learn that, not because I had to do it. I didn't have to do that. I did it because I loved to do it. And that's what I did in my life.
That's beautiful. Thank you for teaching me that. It's so important, because as I hear that story, I realize that's what you taught me, and I've gotten to do what I've loved. I really loved how you talked about the interconnection between plants, and so the relationship between blueberries and sundew, that they live in the same community, the same type of ecosystem.
I think plants support each other. If you were to go into a nettles patch, nettles is so amazing. That's why it has stings on it, stinging nettles. It's so amazing. It doesn't want to get gobbled up, so it puts protection on it. It also grows under the cover of cottonwoods where it's wet. So I always look in cottonwood trees. There's you look for, when you see cottonwoods, there's a lot of groundwater. when I was picking currants, I noticed in the birch forests that the currants they look like little miniature grapes. They hang down and they're hidden from, if you're tall, like 4 feet, you can't see. You have to get down and look, and they grow around the tree with the sticker bushes, meaning the rose hips or the raspberries, the wild raspberries, or the devil's club now and then is protecting it. So each plant has a personality, and it wants to grow in a certain place. And I found this one big birch tree last year, and I swear there was probably 3 cups of currants growing around that birch tree. I was like so wealthy and so abundant with currants. I just, there was no one to tell. I wanted to say, look at this tree. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. There's all those currants around it. Because and this was in Wasilla, and there isn't currants that grow that abundantly up there. You have to really look. They're not, the forest is different. It's just a different kind of forest. And as you begin to look at different plants, you begin to see the relationship. You begin to see how the ground is, what kind of trees grow, what kind of plants grow around those trees, what it looks like when it's, break up. Some lands get flooded, like the willows, like the sloughs that are off the Tanana River. Some of them were river at one time.
You talked a little bit about cottonwood.
Cottonwoods are amazing. They're poplar. And Balm of Gilead is actually cottonwood bud oil. And I also pick cottonwood buds. I pick cottonwood buds from big cottonwood trees after a windstorm. I pick them in the south central area because there's big cottonwood trees, and when there's also big windstorms, and when you pick after a windstorm, the buds can be up to 3.5 inches long, and you can see this drops of oil on this. It's just it doesn't take long to pick much to get what you want.
Cottonwood buds develop after the leaf falls in the autumn, and you can pick cottonwood buds until the leaves start to develop in early spring.
Till the buds leaf out.
And so you would make a cottonwood oil how?
I put them in a great big speckled enamel pot, the kind that you make in like 3-gallon pot. Fill it with virgin olive oil. Put a cheesecloth over it and put it in the warmest part where the sun is going to shine. I do that for 2 summers. My cottonwood bud oil flame does not touch that pot. And after 2 years, I strain it and squeeze the medicine out of the plants, and it smells just like when you pick it.
Beautiful, thank you.
And it has all the medicine in that. Nothing is gone from them.
This is a true sun-infused cottonwood oil.
Yep.
2-year infusion process.
Right.
Well, that's wonderful. Would you like to share a little bit more about your drumming? You said you would drum.
Okay, what do we want to drum about?
Cottonwood.
Okay, let's see. We're going to just think about, as I drum, I'll call cottonwood. How's that? So close your eyes and get comfortable. Allow your body to relax into the chair. Breathe slow and deep. If any thoughts come up while I'm drumming, just allow them to come up and allow them to just gently go away. And allow yourself permission to let cottonwood come and speak to you.
And so I saw cottonwood. I was facing a cottonwood tree, and I was looking up into the branches, and then it showed me the reflection in the roots and how it looks the same. The branches and then the roots, and the circulation of nutrients between the roots and the branches. And then I saw ants, and then I was an ant crawling up the bark of the tree.
Wow. So there's the interaction. A female cottonwood tree came to me, and she was really busy with her cottonwoodness. And she said to me that we like to be close to humans because we help them. And that she was sad that a lot of people don't like cottonwood trees, and they cut them down because they destroy the foundations of houses. And that if people would just understand that they only grow where there's a lot of water, and so don't build your house there. and then she was scurrying around because a windstorm is coming up, and she hates losing limbs. And then that was it. But she's glad I come and pick them.
Oh, that's beautiful. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I think it's wonderful that more and more interest is in plant medicine. I was reading about the plants that we grow, and you were going to look it up to validate that. And when we grow plants like vegetables, personally, when we touch the dirt, and when we weed the garden, and when we put the seed into the dirt, when we water those plants that we are growing, whatever nutrients, and this is any plant that we're growing, whatever nutrients our body needs will be in that plant we're growing. I think that is amazing. So that means everyone should help in the garden, because if everyone helps, then all the nutrients that the family needs is in those plants.
That's beautiful. And the future is in the soil.
Right. How this culture has done gardening, especially in this country, has caused most of the problems we're having. And if we can learn how to live in and with nature, then we will prosper. Get rid of the dams. Don't build by the rivers. The rivers is what puts silt when it floods. Flooding is not a bad thing. Flooding is a good thing. It puts on the land nutrients that comes down from the mountains and goes miles, hundreds of miles that carries the nutrients that grows the foods that we need to survive. And we can do it. I know we can.
Thank you for your time today and for inspiring us to continue our journeys of remembering when we remembered. You said it so beautifully. It's in our DNA. It's in our genes.
It is.
It's in the patience that we have in asking questions, talking to our elders, talking to the people that know what we'd like to know. And so when people come to talk with elders, do you have any recommendations of that?
Honor your elder. Honor their knowledge and do whatever feels appropriate in that honoring. I always bring gifts that I know that they don't do anymore, be it berries or fish or, what do you want? I'm going to come visit you. What do you need? What can I do for you? Our elders are our greatest treasure that is ignored because they have stories that will be forgotten if they're not told or shared.
Thank you. Much love, many blessings.
My pleasure.